everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today on Cooking with Maria, I'll be meal prepping for the entire week. The ingredients and the step-by-step instructions for all the recipes that I'll be making today are down below in the description. The recipes that I'll be making today are right in front of me in my recipe book. So today we'll be making a salad dressing, a granola that I'll be having for breakfast throughout the week, a whole chicken, some mashed potatoes, and a spanakopita recipe, which is a Greek recipe of a phyllo pastry stuffed with spinach and feta cheese. I often take salads to work with me for lunch, and I like to prepare all of the ingredients in advance. For the salad dressing, you'll need some olive oil, Dijon mustard, fresh dill, lemon, garlic, salt and pepper, and a tablespoon of tahini. We'll start by chopping up one garlic clove. Make sure to finely mince the garlic, and once you're done, place it in a small container. Next, chop the dill, and again, you'll place it in the same container as the garlic. After chopping the garlic and dill, I'm going to grab the olive oil and use about half a cup of olive oil in this salad dressing. The reason I use so much is because I make salad dressing for probably at least 5 to 10 salads, so this will last me the entire week. That way I'm not making a different salad dressing every evening of the week. It would take way too long. I like to add about a tablespoon of tahini, and gives it that creamy texture. And then I'll add about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I don't always measure my quantities perfectly for salad dressing because it's really to your preference. So I've added some salt and pepper to this, and then I just mix it all together. As a final touch, I like to add about half a lemon in here. You can add lemon or apple cider vinegar, whatever you prefer. That gives it an extra little kick of acidity. All right, and that's about ready. So that's kind of the consistency that I like. And in the morning, right before I go to work or the night before, I divide it into smaller containers and then take that smaller portion with me to work for my salad that day. For the salad, I usually find whatever I have in the fridge. Today I found a bunch of random ingredients and I'm going to make it into a couple of salads. What I typically do is I'll make a salad from the dry ingredients for myself and then for my husband. So I have 2 containers over here in front of me, and I'll be cutting up a bunch of ingredients and putting them in here. I like to start with a green, such as a spring mix or spinach or lettuce. Today I have spinach in the fridge, and then I cut up the vegetables that I found in the fridge. So I have some radishes, so I'm going to start by cutting those up. I love the color of the radishes. It just gives the salad such a nice vibrant touch. And I usually like to thinly slice the radishes, and then now we'll move on to the cucumber. So I usually cut it in half, and then I cut it in half again, and then I just chop it up. Sometimes I take off the skin. Apparently it's supposed to help with acid reflux, which I occasionally get, but I don't know if it's a myth or if that's the truth. Then I have some parsley in the fridge, so I decided to add that to the salad. I like to add any sorts of herbs, so it could be parsley, it could be dill, but I already had dill in the salad dressing that I made, so I thought parsley would be a good choice to have as another herb. You can also put in cilantro if you like that. You can put in some basil leaves into salads as well. I like that too. So it really depends on what you have in the fridge or what you really like in your salads. And now I'm going to cut each cherry tomato in half and divide it equally between the 2 containers. And now it's time for the avocado. Beautiful. What I find is the bagged avocados are quite smaller, whereas the individual ones are larger. So this is the individual packed one. so I'll use 1/4 of it per salad. But for the smaller avocados that come in the bags, I would usually use about half of that in a salad, or even sometimes a full avocado in a salad. And then for the topping, I like to add some nuts, usually whatever I have in the fridge. So I had some pine nuts, so I'm gonna add a little bit of those. Now this is a great salad and everything. However, I find that eating a salad for lunch, for me personally, is not enough. I also like to add a protein into my salad. So I have leftover salmon that I made yesterday, and I'll link down below for that recipe. And I like to use about 1/2 cup or 1/3 of a cup of protein in the salad. So for this salmon, I'm just gonna roughly cut it up and add it into both of the salad containers. Beautiful. And that gives it some extra protein so we stay full longer throughout the day. And let me know down below if you guys want me to do a video on what I eat in a day. Those seem to be quite popular on the internet now. And this is my lunch for tomorrow, a salad and some salad dressing. Let's move on to our next recipe, my breakfast for tomorrow. Our next recipe is going to be a peanut butter chocolate granola that Sam Oscarl makes. She shared this recipe in her YouTube video, and I'll leave a link for that down below. For this recipe, I'm going to start by adding 1 cup of oats into a large mixing bowl. We also want to preheat our oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now Sam Oscarl in her recipe uses slivered almonds, but I'm going to use hazelnuts because I don't have slivered almonds. And to be honest, I find the hazelnuts give it a really nice taste. It almost tastes like Nutella. So now I'm just going to crush them with my mortar and pestle until they're roughly crushed. And we'll add that in here. Next, we'll add a tablespoon of cacao powder. This is about a tablespoon in here, so it works out well. Then we add 1/4 cup of maple syrup. In her recipe, she uses 1/3 of a cup, but I find that it's a little too sweet with 1/3 of a cup, so I use 1/4 cup. And then I use 1/4 cup of chocolate chips. I mix it together until it's thoroughly mixed. Then I add in a scoop of peanut butter, but you can use any nut butter such as almond butter or hazelnut butter. Those work too. And then what I do here is I give the leftover peanut butter to my puppy Luna. So let's do that now. This is her favorite. It's a nice little mid-afternoon snack for her. Watching my puppy eat makes me so incredibly happy. One of the biggest joys in life. Now she'll have a nice nap as I finish filming. She'll be nice and quiet. We've had a little bit of a hard time today filming this video because Luna's been awake and very active. So I'm hoping that this peanut butter soothes her. Alright, let's move on. After thoroughly mixing this granola, we'll add it over onto a parchment paper lined baking sheet. And we'll sprinkle a pinch of salt over top. And it can go right into the oven now for 20 minutes. While my granola is in the oven, I'm going to get started with our mashed potatoes. For mashed potatoes, I like to make sure that each of the potato pieces is approximately the same, so it takes about the same time to cook. So the larger potatoes, I've cut them into halves, and the smaller I've left as they are. Now, in order for us to peel the potatoes so that it's easier, what I've done is for the smaller potatoes, I've cut a slit in the middle of the potato so that it's easier to peel later. And you'll see later on, once the potatoes are ready, how that will look. I'm gonna place some salt in the pot and we'll bring that to a boil. Also, make sure to check out my Instagram channel to find the reel of how the potatoes are a lot easier to peel once they're cooked when I score the skin with a small paring knife. What I found with this recipe is about halfway through, I take it out of the oven and move the granola around so that the parts that were on the edges go towards the middle and the parts that were in the middle go towards the edges. That way it cooks thoroughly throughout. I also find that on 375 it gets burnt a lot easier, so I like to cook it on 375 for about 10 minutes, and then I lower the heat down to about 350 for the other 10 minutes. Oh, also throughout the cooking process, I do like to taste my food. That's a pro tip right there. That's really good. Oh yeah. To be honest, I much prefer the hazelnuts over the almonds. It really tastes like Nutella to me. While the granola is finishing up and the potatoes are boiling, I'm gonna get started with our whole chicken. Now for the preparation of the chicken, I'm gonna get my husband Adam to break down the chicken.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to break down chicken. I've never done this before. It can seem a little intimidating, but once you understand the process, it's not that difficult. So a lot of store-bought chickens come already pre-trussed, and since we're going to be breaking this chicken down, we're not going to need the trussing. So I'm just going to snip that off with my small knife and remove the string. So we're going to start by trimming the excess skin from the inside of the cavity here. I wouldn't throw these out. I like to keep them, render out the fat, and save it for cooking. The next thing to do is to get the leg and slowly slice down to the joint. So once you feel the joint, what you do is you just pop the bone right out of the socket. Take your small knife and run it along the inside, that side here, and just gently pull away the thigh from the body, and then we'll do the same thing on this side. Next, we're going to work on the breast. So 2 ways you can do that. Easiest way I find is to just take your knife and cut through the softer rib bones along the bottom here until you get to the wing joints. Then just slice down the breastbone and gently work your knife across the chicken's breastplate in order to separate the breast from the chicken. There's one breast. So if you want to keep the wing connected to the breast, what you can do is feel down for the joint, and then make sure that you're cutting not into the bone, because that could chip and damage your knife, but just into the cartilage so that you can save the edge of your knife and also get a nice clean cut right through there. Now you have a boneless chicken breast with the wing still attached, and it's very simple to remove the wing. Just slice it away along the joint. So that is the main pieces broken down. Oh, I forgot to remove that. Let's just do that right now. So this is excellent for stock. I'm going to save that and make a beautiful chicken stock with it. You can freeze it for, I don't know, up to 6 months or so, 4 to 6 months I would say. And once you've accumulated a couple of these in your freezer, you can just toss them into a pot full of water with some herbs and some celery and carrots, and boil it down for a very long time and have a delicious, flavorful chicken stock.
We'll do a video on that coming up in the next few weeks to a few months, depending on our schedule.
Yeah. If you want to have a separate thigh and drumstick, again, it's a very simple process. All you do is just slice along the joint, just like before, and then try to feel down for where the joint is, and using your knife, gently cut into the cartilage, taking care to avoid cutting into the bone so as not to damage your knife. Okay, so now that we've broken down our chicken, we're just going to take our pieces and put them in the bowl. Oh, if you want them to cook more evenly, you can also cut the crust in half. And we're done.
So we'll let the chicken rest for 5 minutes. In the meantime, my granola is now ready, and I've let it cool for about 5 to 10 minutes now. And what I like to do is make a yogurt parfait with it so I can have it for lunch tomorrow. I add some yogurt into a container, and sometimes I add a little bit of honey or maple syrup into the yogurt to give it an extra little sweetness. But this yogurt doesn't need it. I like to place the granola over top. Tomorrow morning, what I'll do is I'll add a sliced banana over top of that. I can also add berries and things like that, but I think for this particular granola, because it's a peanut butter chocolate, a banana goes really good with it. So I'll leave the banana out for myself to remember tomorrow morning to cut it up. Usually I cut up the banana, put it in here. I'll have that for my breakfast right before I get started with my workday. I almost forgot, I also like to put some hemp hearts over top of the granola, just for an extra little protein kick. In the meantime, our potatoes are now boiling on medium-high heat for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna check it to see whether the potatoes are now ready. So I poke them with a fork and it feels like they're pretty soft, so they're ready to go. Now, I don't have a colander on me. The reason is because we're moving. We've started to transfer some of our kitchen tools into boxes, so I've packed up everything already. So we'll have to make do. I'm gonna grab my lid, and we'll do this the old-fashioned way. Now, if I was sick, I'd be breathing in that potato steam under a warm blanket for 10 to 15 minutes. Russian remedy. In the meantime, we'll heat up a bit of milk on the stove top and bring it to a nice warm temperature. We don't want it to boil though. And I'm going to prepare some butter as well. So this recipe is really simple. All you need is salt, pepper, butter, milk, potatoes. A nice, generous slab of butter. I'll add this slab of butter into the milk so it heats up all together. I'm just peeling the potatoes now that are quite hot, but my hands are used to this. My hands are like a nonna who's been cooking her whole life. Once I'm done peeling these potatoes, we're gonna mash them up with a bit of the warmed up milk with the butter. Like I said, this recipe is super easy and you can use a regular potato masher for it. However, we don't have one right now because again, we've packed it up. We'll use our immersion blender attachment for mashing potatoes. After we've peeled the potatoes, we're gonna add in our milk and butter. And then it's time to add the salt and pepper. And now we'll mash it up. Shout out to my dad for the wedding gift. We're going to prepare our pancetta by rolling it up into a cigar and then cutting it into little square pieces. And we'll set that aside. Next, we're going to prepare our vegetables. For the shallot, I'm getting my husband to cut it for me because I'm not a huge fan of cutting onions. I'm not crying, you're crying. And now we'll chop up the mushrooms. So we'll take the stem off first and then chop the rest of that. And now we're going to finely mince the garlic. Let's season the chicken with some salt and pepper. Generously. Once I've seasoned the chicken, I'm going to place it onto a pan. Here I'm using a Dutch oven with the skin side down. We want it to be nice and crispy. Now I am wearing gloves because I really don't like touching raw chicken juices. You don't want to overcrowd the pan, so hopefully this fits nicely, but if it doesn't, I'll make it in batches. Perfect. It fits right in. So we want to cook it until it turns brown and crispy for about 4 minutes or so. After 4 minutes, flip the chicken pieces and cook until the second side is golden brown, about 3 minutes longer. Then transfer the chicken onto a large plate and set it aside. So now we'll add the pancetta onto the pan and fry it up until it's crispy. And next we'll add in our mushrooms. Now we'll add the shallots and garlic and let that cook for about a minute or so. And then the butter goes in next. Once the butter is melted, we'll add in the flour and stir frequently for about 30 seconds. Then we'll add about half a cup of beer or a cup of white wine. Then we're going to add about 3 cups of chicken stock. We have our own here, but you can use store-bought as well. And let's bring that to a boil. So now that it's boiling, we're going to add our chicken back in so that the skin is facing up. Once we've transferred our chicken in there, we're going to make sure we get all the juices in. And now we'll reduce the heat to low and cover it up with a lid, half covered, for about 45 minutes. I need a drink. This has been a long day of cooking and we're not even done yet. Oh, you got some on your nose, Luna. Oh no, now she's just licking it off. The whole couch is covered in peanut butter now. This is why we don't have expensive furniture at home. To prepare that, I add some Greek yogurt into, and now we'll chop up the onions.